Hi, I'm McCarthy, and I help people with their breakups. And today we're going to talk about my ex was with an old dork. What do I do? Real breakup story. This was actually sent in, and if you want to send in your story, send it into writemac.com, and I can review it for you. Kind of an odd title, but this is what people do post-breakup, right? They go, they throw darts at the person their ex is with, and it makes them feel better some ways, but the reality is it's kind of a reflection of you, because when you go out looking at this guy, he's actually hooking up with your girl. So the idea that he's a dork or not a dork, some people like dorks, but it's an interesting thing at the end of the story. He goes, the guy's an old dork, right? People move on, and they move on to different types for different reasons, for different aspects, and you're never going to really figure it all out. But the reality is calling them names is just fine. I mean, I don't mind. So, doing it for long periods of time is a problem, right? Like if you have fun with it and you're like, God, this guy's this guy's that, fine. It's totally fine. There's no harm there. But it's not gonna help the issue. And that reality, like when you go around telling friends that, right? When you go around telling friends like, oh, she's with an old dork now, what does that make you?
Dork's not too bad though.
There's some cool dorks,
There's
right?
some cool dorks.
What's your definition of a dork, B?
Maybe somebody like that's a gamer, something you know what I mean, like that kind of thing. I consider myself a dork. Like I like video games and stuff. Yeah.
So a gamer would be a dork?
Yeah. Or maybe the classical, like,
What's the definition? Look it up real quick if you could, if you don't mind. I'm just curious. In the Webster's dictionary, what is a dork?
I guess that would be geek. Maybe that's a gamer or something. Dork.
Happy Hump Day, everyone. That's a new one for me, Rye. You might have to explain that. I'm not familiar with that. But right, people do this all the time. They send their story. They break down the other guy.
McLovin. Yeah.
They break down the other guy, and they, it's so funny, right? But the reality is, it's not going to help you too much.
So it's a socially inept person. So somebody that's maybe not like
in style or cool.
Yeah.
Says who, right? There's so many different groups of people now.
Right.
It doesn't really matter.
Right.
That's funny because I wouldn't think it would be that. That's more broad a term than I thought for a dork.
Yeah.
Like you're just saying like almost like a nerdy.
That's what I was thinking.
Not to fit in.
Yeah.
All right. So the story on deck. My ex is with an old dork. What do I do? Would you call a girl a dork too?
Maybe, but I don't think I ever have.
I look at the term dork as kind of a playful thing. Like I wouldn't say it as a completely negative thing. Like, this guy's a dork.
That's what I was saying. It's not that bad.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's not like
it's not that bad. No. So we have that story on deck, and maybe we'll do some reviews on a couple other channels on my ex dating someone else, because this has been coming up. What happened is we talked about rebounds yesterday, so some things have come in. People have asked me some more questions on that. And it hurts. You can't help but to judge the new person your ex is with, right? You can't help it. So let's get right into the story today. All right. Hey, coach. I just broke up with my girlfriend of 3 years. I'm 27 and she's 23 years old. We met on a dating app and everything was pretty good till she decided to start seeing her best friend's brother for a back problem she had. He's a chiropractor and now they are seeing each other. All right, this kind of stuff happens, right? This isn't your fault. This isn't something you did wrong. This isn't you stopped dating her. This isn't you gained too much weight, okay? This can happen. This is hypergamy, really, because I'm 27, she's 23. I'm assuming that this guy that's a chiropractor probably makes more money, has a more prestigious title, whether you think chiropractic is cool or not cool. It holds some weight, right? Like being a chiropractor, that's an interesting job. He has his own practice. He's in his 40s, and I'll admit he's not a bad-looking dude. For you to say that means that he's probably good-looking, because you don't want to say that. One of those marathon runner types and fitness fanatics. Are you one? I met him multiple times and actually liked him and even got an adjustment for him on my body. He's a good chiropractor. I mean, this is incredible because a lot of times people can't find one nice word to say about someone that's with their ex. So you saying this must mean he's a pretty good dude. And me thinking back, the chiropractors I know, they're mostly good souls. Chiropractic is an interesting field because they believe in all natural treatments. It feels like our relationship went from great to horrible in a matter of weeks. It's like the lights went out and never came back on. Well, I'm just going to tell you, she's 23 years old. You're 27. Anyone below 25, it's just more impulsive. They have more options, especially females. And so the competition can be harsh, but also at any given moment, she can meet someone else or just decide she wants to be single again. And you could blame that on red pill things. You can blame that on all kinds of things. It just is what it is. And in this particular case, you couldn't have foresaw this, and maybe it doesn't work out, or maybe it does. But she wasn't dialed in as you were. But you were together for 3 years, so this is going to sting a bit. This kind of stuff happens. Like, look at it this way. If you're 27 years old, what if you met a hot nurse? Maybe, I can describe something that's hot to me, but maybe you can use your imagination on that. And it just worked out and the stars lined up. Would you leave her? You're just like, no, I never would. Well, she would do it to you. It feels like our relationship went from great from horrible. We went from having sex 5 times a week to maybe once a week, and I didn't know what was going on. Well, now that you know, she was seeing someone else. Usually something like that happens where it's drastic like that, and not gradual, and you don't see it coming. There's a good possibility she's seeing someone else, or she lost attraction for you in some specific way that you're not seeing. Basically, this guy charmed her into working as an intern at his office because she's interested in now being a chiropractor, even though she's in the final year of college and majoring in marketing. All right, well, okay, so bottom line, as I like to say, you're probably not going to compete with that. You got, on one level, you're admitting that the guy's good looking in his 40s, right? And you're probably thinking, wow, he's so much older. Women find a lot of men attractive that are older. He's in a space or a job that she's interested in actually doing. So, this isn't necessarily he just conned her into it. Maybe she really does want to be a chiropractor, and the fact that he already is one is attractive. I'm not sure how that plays into being a chiropractor. Well, marketing can be used for chiropractors too. So it's actually a useful degree. So I would say that, she could help market herself as a chiropractor. I actually broke up with her because I just couldn't take the coldness, and now what I know were lies. All right, so this is interesting because you broke up with her. So basically what you're saying is she went from staying at my place all the time to coming over twice a week, and even she had lost it. And even then she had lost attraction for me. I could tell there wasn't anything I did. So you're saying I didn't change, she did. Then when I confronted her on it, she just would make some lame excuse. So basically she didn't want to break up. A lot of times, sometimes individuals don't want to be the bad guy. And so they'll just let it carry out and dare you to break up with them. Very common, because she probably still has feelings for you if you're together for 3 years. And I don't know, you haven't mentioned yet if she was seeing this guy or you had evidence of it, but it seems pretty obvious that, where there's smoke, there's fire. Now, a month after we broke up, I've seen her on the Snap Stories with the chiropractor going for morning runs. All right, so this doesn't necessarily mean that they were hooking up for sure, right? That doesn't mean that this is just cut and dry that they were together. This could have transpired after you broke up. Is there a good chance that there was some flames going down before you broke up? Yes. The guy is such a dork. I just can't see it lasting. All right, so this is where you get biased. And who knows? You might be right. The guy might have some skeletons in the closet. He might have some things that are unattractive. She's going to have to play this out. You were together for 3 years. She's 23 years old. Yeah, they're going on morning runs together. Something's going on. Stay away from it. I've watched a lot of videos and I wanted your take. Do you think she'll get sick of him because he's an old dork?
It's kind of interesting because he's saying that he's good looking and he's fit, but he's also a dork. So I don't know.
I guess you can be all those things. This is just your personal description, and that's totally fine, right? And this is what happened yesterday. We were talking about rebounds and whatnot. You don't want to spectate. That's for damn sure. You're 27. You pulled this woman. You had a good relationship with her. You can pull another one. But you watching from the sidelines is just going to put you in a trance state where you're just watching a movie that you don't really like. And then you're like, I can't leave this movie. And you're going to be reporting to your friends, oh, this guy's such a dork. He's such a loser. The reality is he's a chiropractor. He's in fairly good shape, so he's not totally bad. And it's hard to overcome the fact, like I said, he's older and he's successful. I don't know where you're at, where you line up in that field. But that's a big difference in this situation. And it's certainly in 3 months, 6 months could play out and she comes back to you, or it's possible, but it's you calling the guy a dork's not going to help you. It's funny. It's funny, but how therapeutic is it? That'd be a good question to ask yourself. Do these types of relationships last? This is a golden question. Some do, some don't. If I was going to say Vegas odds, no. I'd say it's going to last longer than a week, probably. It's not going to, they're going on morning runs. She's an intern there. It's not going to end anytime soon. If it was going to end in a year, 2 years, 3 years, okay, yeah. The age gaps catches up with people.
Yeah.
It's not ideal to have a 17, 20-year age gap. So, yeah, that's possible. But this idea that do they last or not last, the golden question is how long would it last, and are you going to sit waiting on the sidelines? Don't. Just move forward, move on, get your head up, and think about this. You're 27 years old, right? You got your youth right now. You got to get back on deck. But cut off all social media. This is what I said. I just got to cut off all social media, cut off all ties, move forward, move on. And if you can't do that yet, you got to lick your wounds. You got to do that. Don't go telling all your friends and family, yeah, she's with this chiropractor. He's kind of good looking. Yeah, he's kind of an old dork. A lot of them aren't going to care that much, and it's going to hurt you more. The fact that you sent this in anonymously, fine. But you got to get off that mantra for a little bit. And you broke up with her, so I'm going to give you some credit in the fact that you didn't sit around and get treated like a second-class citizen for too long. You decided that, you know what, I don't need to take this. And sometimes what happens is when you have one of these situations where she's daring you to be the bad guy, or he's daring you to be the bad person, and then you are, where you're like, I'm not going to take this anymore, and they open the door and they go, okay, yeah, let's break up. This is great. They haven't been able to sit in a breakup yet either, and they still have feelings for you. So there's absolutely still a possibility there, but don't wait in the wings. Absolutely don't wait in the wings on this one. It's just going to be a harsh reality over time. Excuse me. So I had, just touching on this, my ex is dating someone else already and it hurts. Should I do no contact? There's a couple other videos. How do I get over a breakup fast? Jordan Peterson. I don't know if I watched this one before. But what's even more interesting is reading some of the comments, because Jordan Peterson's videos got 868,000 views.
Yeah, he blows up when he puts out videos.
Right.
Yeah.
How to get over a breakup fast. And this is what's really interesting now, right? I've talked about this before is there's people that have no background in breakups or specialty, but they're giving their take, but they're just giving their take. Jordan Peterson's been married for like 40 years. He has a clinical practice. Doesn't really specialize in breakups. So it's going to be interesting what he says, right? Because he's a smart guy, but this isn't his specialty. Right. And he married, from what I've heard him in an interview, he's like, I married the girl that grew up across the street from me.
Oh, so I mean, he wasn't like breaking up probably a lot or doing all these
Have
things.
You had a serious, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Have you had a serious breakup?
Right.
So when you're giving advice, it's like, well, just do this, this, and this,
Right.
and you've never even been
You've
down in the
never-
dungeon,
yeah, right.
right? Never even been down there. All right, so let me take a look at this one. Give me a moment here. Thing about Jordan Peterson, I really like him. I think he's extremely intelligent. He's starting to get to a point, and there's a lot of people like this, where he's covering so many topics. Okay, and there's a lot of people that are quote unquote influencers. They're experts on everything. It's like, I go to a pizza shop that makes pizza. I don't go to a pizza shop that makes 100 different kinds of foods. So it's kind of interesting because I want to hear what he says. Like I said, he has a clinical practice.
And he's a smart guy. Like, obviously. You know, he's a professor.
Yes.
Like, he's a smart dude.
All right.
Of post-traumatic disorder or symptoms of post-traumatic disorder. And so let's say they got post-traumatic stress disorder because a relationship collapsed on them suddenly, which is quite common. You know, they get betrayed or someone leaves them suddenly, and then they don't know what to do, because especially if they're conscientious, because then they just tear themselves into pieces trying to figure out what they did wrong to bring about that event. And the reason they're doing that is because they want to retool their perceptions and their actions so that the probability that they'll have the same experience again is minimized. And their mind won't leave them alone until they do it. And no wonder, right? Because if you fall into a big pit and you get really hurt, the first thing you should figure out is how to not fall into big pits anymore. And your mind is set up exactly for that. And so what you do with someone who's having problems like that, so maybe they're waking up at the middle of the night obsessing about what went wrong, is you walk them through it. You do a situational analysis first, because one of the oversimplifications that people make, and this is especially true for conscientious people, is if something bad happened to me, I must have done something to deserve it. Now that's actually a pretty functional idea, because it suggests that there are things about your behavior that you could change that would make the future better. But the problem is that, say if it's the collapse of a relationship and you've been with that person for 8 years or longer, well, you did so many things with them that the idea that you did something wrong pretty much extends to every single thing you ever did with them. And that's, how are you going to fix that? And so that's part of the trauma, actually. The trauma is 80 million snakes all at the same time. It's like, well, forget it. You don't have time to go through all that material. And so
Yeah, I mean, that kind of makes sense. Like,
I don't think that's true, though. I don't think that when you're going over your breakup, you're like, oh, I'm going to go over everything. In my experience, and actually dealing with people just with breakups, they usually have one or two big narratives. Do you understand? What like, let's say you're with your girl for 5 years, right? Are you going through every narrative, everything, or you have 2 or 3 big ones, or one big one?
yeah, probably one.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Like you don't go through. I know what he's saying. Like in conscientious people, well, that's one flavor of human.
That's, yeah, specifically.
And there's some people that are conscientious about certain things, and certain things they don't give a fuck about. Someone that is conscientious about manners at the table, and being around older people and being polite, could be total jerks to girlfriends. So like, this is where it gets a little bit generalized. And then the sense that, well, they start making, they try to find all the different, I don't think that's true. It's usually like what happened, like that story I just read, she's with someone else, it started to fall off. But yeah, it was my fault. Usually people have a more specific idea of what it was.
Okay.
Unless they're running from it. So the idea that they go over everything, they usually know deep down, well, this is what kind of happened. If they're going to be honest, if they write it out, I think.
partly what you do is with people, and this is what you should do with yourself too, is you do a situational analysis. It's like, don't be assuming necessarily that the thing that happened to you only happened to you because of what you did or didn't do. There's all sorts of factors at play. So one of the things that sometimes I do with clients is if they were in a relationship and I can get some reasonable personality information about both of them, I can point out where they were temperamentally incompatible. You know, like if you're a highly conscientious person and your partner is very, very low in conscientiousness, it's like, well, good luck to you two. How the hell are you ever going to work that out? Because you want everything to be exactly where it's supposed to be, and you're working all the time, and your partner could care less whether things were where they're supposed to be, and they're not going to work. And you can butt heads about that forever. The probability that you're going to shift it, you know, except to some minor degree, is very, very low. And so sometimes you end up with someone with whom you get along very well on one temperamental dimension, and you're an absolute catastrophe on the other four. And the probability that you're going to be able to mediate a huge temperamental difference is extremely low. You wouldn't expect yourself to mediate a huge intellectual difference, right? You're going to make the other person smarter, or maybe you smarter, depending on who you're with. It's like, no, probably not. A bit, maybe. So you do a situational analysis. And so what you're trying to do is to extract out information from your past and your present that will enable you to conduct yourself properly into the future. And so that's another example of the pragmatic element of thought. Well then, within the brain itself, apart from the major subdivisions which we just described, there are minor subdivisions, and here's a bunch of them listed: the caudate nucleus, the cerebral cortex, the huge newest part of the brain that's about a square meter. If you unfold it, it's all folded up, and most of the processing occurs right on the surface. That's the idea anyways. The thalamus, that's a place where a lot of the information in the brain appears to be integrated. The cerebellum helps you with balance and the sequencing of complex motor activities. The hippocampus, that's the one we talked about before.
Would you go to Jordan Peterson for advice based on this?
No.
What?
I mean, maybe if I knew him, maybe. But this is like a university lecture, so you know what I mean?
See how interesting how perspective you can go like, this is titled How to Get Over Your Ex, and it goes into this big esoteric, deep academic thing. I don't even think I can finish it.
Like, I don't even know what this class is. Like, what is he teaching? Do you know what I mean? Like, this is a university thing. So,
right, good point.
So
I'm saying that's what the title was.
Yeah. But I mean, if you were to just go to him like with a breakup, question or something, it might be different.
But there's nothing specific about it. This is the biggest problem. There's no specific. It's like, well, if people are different and they have a different personality, then they're not going to get along. Okay, newsflash. You know what I mean? It's like, all right.
Sometimes that's good. Sometimes it's bad. I don't know.
You're not going to change them to be smarter. Is one of the things that's said. It's like, right. I don't know. I'd say that you gotta listen to what their thing is. There's so much stuff like this though that's like, this is how you do it, right? It's like, well, the client of mine that I just talked to earlier this morning, he's probably been broken up for like 5 or 6 months, and we've talked for 2 to 3 months pretty regularly, and he's really had a tough time with it. And he's like, I'm just getting to the point, man. Like, something's changed. Something's shifted. He's used those words. You can tell he's different. Right. And I described it to him before, and I told him this. I said, you aren't going to go 0 to 100 because you're not drinking, you're not going out to clubs, you're not
like doing.
You're facing it. Yeah, you're facing it. And I said, what you'll do is you'll get plateaus. Like you'll be in one place for a little while. It's kind of like this with sports too. It's like you don't just go from good to like great. You'll get a little bit better for a period of time. You'll get a little bit better for a period of time, and
you might get a little worse for a period of time.
Right, and then and then something will edge you up to a new plateau. And I'm like, you just hit a new plateau, and part of it is he's hooked up with someone new 2 weeks ago, and it was really good. And he was really happy about it. He hooked up with some other women before that too, but
that's happened to me too before after a breakup, where you just are like in a funk or something, and for a while.
And I told him, I mean, for a lot of, if you think about it, I'm not saying that you need to just go out and hook up afterwards. You need to lick your wounds. You need to deal with your stuff. You need to work on yourself. The list goes on. But the idea that filling that space with someone that you're proud to be with or was a really good experience doesn't help. No, it does. And so that's the new plateau. It's like, no, I hooked up with someone who was high quality. I like them. I'm
that
into
you connected
them.
with,
Right.
not just a random person.
And someone that you would say that is equal to higher value to who you were with. I think that's a big one, because a lot of times you're probably hooking up with someone that you think is below, or even just to settle for loneliness.
Right. Or you don't see yourself with them. Yeah.
Right. And so if you meet someone that you're like, damn, this is a contender to be with me in the future.
Right.
It was like one day I just didn't feel anything anymore and I was over it.
Like
I don't know if that, I mean, here's what I would say, Riflin. This is what I would say. If you had to guess, I read this in a book, and a doctor said this. If you had to guess, what do you think it was? And then your mind will come up with something, and that thing that you come up with is actually what it is.
But it does seem like it just kind of switched.
But if you had to guess,
Right.
it's like I asked him today, if you had to guess, well,
What was it?
Was hooking up with that girl.
Right. Okay.
It's not that that's the number one reason. It's not that that's the only reason. But if you had to say what's pushed you up to the next level, right?
But in that moment, it feels
like no. You could, right now, he's like, I don't know what it is. It's just not as bad. It's just not as bad as it was, right? It's not just the time. It's the fact something happened, and now you're on a new plateau. Now you're on a new plateau.
There's probably a few things, maybe like there is time that it needs to, happen where you.
Well, there's people out there that are able to move on quicker because that's just who they are.
Exactly. Yeah.
And if they're the types that once they set their mind to, like someone will go, once I'm done, I'm done. This is a statement people make. I've had clients on the other end of a breakup, and they're like, they've told me this. So they're going to make that true. And then when you break up, they're going to go, when it's done, it's done. And that's what I've done before, and that's what I'll do now. So if you said, oh, just one day I didn't feel anything anymore and I was over it, had that happened to you before and other things that you had a problem with? But the ones that people have a lot of trouble with where you're like, they haven't really ever had a hardcore rejection, or the biggest one is the open loop where you're like, something I don't get here. That's why the hard thing is when someone says, my ex is with this old dork. So this is a narrative, right? So think about it like this. Divergent thinking. This is something I just got from a Milton Erickson book, the term, but it's really cool. It's like, you could look at this guy as an old dork, right? He's an old dork. What do I do? She's with him. Is she going to be with him? It's like, is it possible he's not an old dork? How well do you know this? Well, what other directions could you take this story? You could say he's an old dork, and that's why we would never work because I'm not a dork. I stopped tying my self-worth to that relationship. But I know, but was there a specific situation or something that came up, a movie that you watched? Sometimes it could be something small. Someone said something to me.
That makes
I got
sense,
there,
though.
just clicked one day, but I'm not sure how I did. What's up, Rob?
That makes sense.
Yeah, sometimes it's
you just don't even think about it though. Like, but there might be an event or something, that flips you. But you just don't realize it, and you feel like it's just one day it's switched.
There's usually something though.
Sure.
There's usually something.
Right. But if you're not like consciously thinking about it, then
you're
it
not
just feels
consciously thinking.
Yeah, you just.
And like I said, it could be very subliminal. It could be a movie you watched. It could be someone said something.
I think for me, maybe it was like an environment change. Like changing work or whatever it was.
Environment changes.
Yeah, I think that was a huge thing.
Environment is extremely habitual in what you do when you enter an environment. It's like, if someone has a 1-bedroom apartment and their one source of entertainment in their apartment is the TV, as soon as they get on the couch, if they turn on their TV every time, then that's what they're going to do. And sometimes when you get out of breakups, that's why one of the hardest breakups to deal with is someone you lived with,
right?
And now you're single, but you don't have someone in the same house. Now, if you get your own place, it still hurts. I think it's not as difficult.
Change the environment.
Yeah. Do you think age has something to do with it? Absolutely. Age and experience, life experience. Being the one left. Sure. But you have a choice. Like, this is the biggest thing is when you start looking at divergent thinking, you start thinking, how can I look at this differently? How can I perceive this in a different way? And if you can't do that, that's when you want to try like hypnosis or one of those things, because you can't relax your mind. Your mind's
stuck.
Your mind's just stuck.
Yeah.
It's just stuck on one thing, and you think any way you react to any of these things, it's not factual. It's just one story that you're going to tell yourself that you want to believe. So like this guy that just wrote this story, and it's like, oh, my ex is an old dork, is with an old dork. It's like, all right, does that make you feel better? It's okay, but is that going to help the objective moving forward? Probably not. Probably not. As soon as you know she's with that old dork and she's been on morning runs with him, keep that out of your.
Is that just a mechanism to like make you feel better about the situation, like, you know, name calling or doing that? Like, what's
sure. I think as males tend to do it way more because they're comparing.
I think we've all done it. You know what I mean? So, is that just like, you know, a way to cope?
Yeah, I'd say it is. But on the flip side, it might make you feel better short term, and it's okay. Like, I'm not saying like don't write that, don't say that. I'm like, go ahead, say it. It's fine. It's still not going to take the sting out.
Right.
What I would say is eliminate all access to watching that dork run with your girl. Because would it feel better? I've talked about this before in a live stream probably a long time ago. But there was a friend of a friend, and I knew the guy myself, but I wouldn't call him my personal friend. And he went to a major university in Southern California, and his girlfriend went to a major university in Southern California. And they were together for a while, and this guy was good with women. He got a lot of girls, and she was a good-looking girl, and they were together for a while. And when they were together, you could tell she was into him. Yeah. And her boyfriend, prior to him, was the college quarterback. This is a D1 school in Southern California. That's a big-time school. Big-time school. This guy went to the fucking NFL.
So he was legit.
Oh, he's an NFL quarterback.
Right. Currently?
He's not in the league anymore.
Okay.
And like he found the jersey underneath the bed when he was. It sounds like a far-fetched story. It's like, really found the jersey. I mean, I don't know. This is a secondhand story. What's up, Smokey the cat? Been looking for you in the daylight with a flashlight. You want to do a call-in? Where have you been, man? I've been worried about you. I've been calling the ERs, man. Sounds like a comedy type movie. It sounds like a Deuce Bigelow thing.
Yeah, that's what I was just thinking.
This is what was told to me, right? So the guy, so he finds this jersey from the college quarterback, and he just goes nuts, right?
And he knew the story, like the backstory.
He knew that she was with him before, right? Surprise, surprise, she ends up going back to the guy, right? So they had a great relationship. He's the fucking college quarterback. He's going to be an NFL star. However good he is, that's a pretty hard competition. It's interesting how different it is for women with status. Are you as attracted to women with status? Actually, it's kind of unattractive. I don't know. If a
maybe
woman,
to a lot of guys, yeah.
like a movie star or a musician, would you be like, oh, dude, I'm dating this?
No. It
would actually be a nuisance, like, because they're gonna have security and they're gonna have all these people around them and stuff like that. Like, would you? Who's your crush that's in Hollywood? B?
Hollywood crush? I don't know.
Oh, come on, dude. You knew one right away. You just don't want to say it.
No,
come on.
Honestly, I don't know.
What's a famous female that you find highly attractive?
I don't know. You're putting me on the spot here.
Well, think about it for a moment. I'll talk a little longer. But the thing is that the interesting thing about that, they never look like they do on screen. But where it seems like, I think, and when I say I think, I don't know. I don't think they get as much approaches as a male that's famous.
Yeah, probably not.
Because I think a lot of guys would be like, oh, she's so-and-so, like, why bother? Like, that's going to be a lot of work.
With
like how am I going
to...
right?
Yeah.
And they end up with some weird guys sometimes. Like your story about Kardashian with fucking Spacehead Pete.
Yeah.
Smokey the Plate. Smokey the Cat, travel friend, spinning plates. Good for you. Good for you. Well, email me, man. Let's talk sometime, man. You fell off a cliff. I'm worried. I was worried about you, dude. Are you in PB again? Because you weren't there for a while. Eduardo Martinez. But anyways, going back to that story, that kind of stuff happens, and it's like, what is he going to do, right? He was beside himself. He was upset. He was pissed off. And then every time that quarterback played, it was like his buddies would give him a hard time, and he's like, oh, this guy's garbage.
Right.
He's the NFL quarterback. Doesn't matter,
He's
dude.
garbage. Like, okay.
He makes like $10 million a year, right? Playing,
Mm-hmm.
So I'm saying that regardless, that was a situation where he would cut this, like there would be Sunday football and the joke would be like, yeah, dude, so-and-so's watching so-and-so play. Right. And he wasn't with his girl and his ex-girl anymore. It's just still stung, right? Mm-hmm. And so, I mean,
was he with her a long time?
Would it make here's where I was going with that story, and it's fucking long-winded. My apologies. I had two calls this morning. I'm feeling a little slow actually. I had 4 hours of conversation before this. I could feel it too. I'm like, what? Why am I? It's like, actually, you've been talking for a long time already. So let's just say this is where I was going with it.
Okay.
Right. Your girlfriend cheats, your girlfriend leaves you, or you break up with her and she ends up with another guy and it's a rebound. Mm-hmm. What if it's not an old dork and it's a fucking first string quarterback in the NFL? Mm-hmm. Does it make it better or worse? You're speechless. Like, what? Yeah. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Does it make it better or worse? Because like if you're like, oh, he sucks as a quarterback. It's like, dude, he's in the NFL. I mean, really he makes a lot of money.
Right.
I mean, it's his job to be in good shape. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So would it make it better? He's not an old dork, but he's, now I can understand why she's with him.
Yeah, I don't.
Would it make it worse?
I don't know. I mean,
that's my whole point. It's like, dude, whoever she ends up with, it's going to sting, but just release all associations and all access to seeing that woman. Tell your friends, family, and colleagues, just like, hey, dude, if you hear anything about her, I don't want to know.
Cancel your NFL pass is what you're saying? Don't watch the NFL games?
Riflin said it's all just ego. I mean, I mean, it's ego, but it's like, yeah, everyone's got an ego too, right? Mm-hmm. So
just how much of it do you have? That's
tough, man. But like, if the guy's some stoner that plays with his hacky sack in the park, it's not going to make it easier either. He's a total loser. It's like, well,
he's doing something. What is he doing?
Like attracts like. That's actually true. Mm-hmm. Like, that's a common statement for a lot of self-improvement people and stuff that get questions about, how do I get my dream lover? How do I get this? It's like, well, are you the kind of person that you want that would attract that kind of person? I would add to that, if you have any limited beliefs or you have something in your past that's limiting you, I'm in Carlsbad. I remember when I was in dumps about 4 years ago, things always get better. We just have to keep moving forward. Mm-hmm. Well, isn't that the truth, huh? Old Carlsbad.
Carlsbad.
Do you know Carlsbad?
It's actually like the home to like some golf companies. So yeah, I actually.
Oh, Carlsbad. Yeah, there's a lot of golfers there. Well, email me, man. We got to get a Zoom session, and I got to talk to you about what's been going on, man. I was in the dumps about 4 years ago. Shh, you could have fooled me, man. You're still Smokey the Cat to me. Right? Mm. It's like sometimes people, like, you look back and they're like, man, I was really down then. It's like, I didn't really notice. I thought you were just being yourself. I thought that was just how you were, man. Just a little bit on the negative side. Mm. Everyone's in the dumps sometimes, right? Or else you're not living. Seriously. As the great Vanilla Sky goes, Can't taste the sour without the sweet, and you can't taste the sweet without the sour. Did you ever see that movie Vanilla Sky with Tom Cruise?
Yeah, I did. Kind of trippy movie. I saw it a long time ago, probably when it first, came out.
I've always liked that movie. It's not because Tom Cruise was great in it. It's like no, just the storyline was different. One thing that's cool about it was, are you Smokey the Cat on IG? Smokey the Cat. You're on IG too, huh? One thing about the Vanilla Sky movie, though, I'm not into cars that much, but some of the coolest old cars. Have you ever seen the cars in the beginning?
Yeah. No,
I'm like, damn, like a fastback.
Yeah.
There's a fastback.
What does he have? Like a Mustang or something?
Yeah, Mustang. And he also had this Ferrari. I'm not really into like Ferrari Testarossa and all those kind of cars. And someone's like, well, how aren't you? I'm not. It's almost looks non-useful on the road. But the old school ones, like Ferris Bueller's Day Off and those are cool.
That was a Ferrari, wasn't it?
I think so.
Yeah.
But the one in, it's like navy blue. I don't know. It almost looks like an old vet. Anyways, I'm off topic. So in that movie, Vanilla Sky, it's just great because you got this guy. He's got everything. The world's handed to him. He's even stealing his best friend, who's kind of a dork. His best friend's girl, and I don't know why, but what's her name in that movie? The Argentinian
Penelope Cruz.
Yeah, she's just so sweet, cute. Yeah. She's got a little accent. She's everything, right? And it seems like everything's gonna work out, and his friend who met her, and it's his dream girl and everything like that. It's like, and then all of a sudden, the girl that he's hooking up with, that he doesn't care about, that he's just discounting to the side, what's her name? The blonde chick with blue eyes?
Cameron
Diaz, great knowledge. And she drives him off a cliff, which happens. This is one of the side things about being a player, and I'm not against it.
You can meet some
dude. Yeah. There's some psycho women out there. There's some psycho men guys out there, right? So I'm just saying. I'm not saying like don't spin plates. I'm not saying that or anything like that. But filter well, people, because that shit happens, man. There's some dudes that end up with some psycho fucking women, dude, and to get disentangled from them, good luck. And so that happens, and he ends up. The weirdness of the movie is he ends up in a nut house. He ends up with facial surgery. His life falls apart completely. Bam. One accident, one woman, all this stuff. The moral is, the interesting part of the story is he was playing this woman. So this woman was extremely into him. He was hooking up with her. He had a shit-eating grin on his face as she said, I love you. And he said, yeah, I'll talk to you tomorrow. You know what I mean? Kind of a thing. And I'm not saying that's wrong or right. Right? But there is some consequences. So he gets into that. He gets into the bottom of his life. And the friend of his, who's the dork side friend, right? And when I say dork, the smart guy, everything like that. And he's in the beginning of the movie, he's like, God, you just didn't even know how good you have it. You own this company. You get all these women. You got the fucking penthouse. You got the sick cars. And he's like, in the movie, he's just like, yeah. Thanks. He's got the shit-eating grin, like Corey Wayne style. Yeah, man. Right? Yeah. I know. And then it gets to a point where, guess what, Smokey the Cat? He was in the dumps. Everyone meets their day in the dumps, or their second day in the dumps, or the third day in the dumps. And you know what? That's what builds fucking character, dude. I'd rather hang out with someone that's been in the dumps a couple times, who's now out of the dumps.
Yeah. Make sure you get...
Rather than someone that's like Tom Cruise in Vanilla Sky that's going, yeah, I know. I'm fucking bulletproof.
Right.
No one's bulletproof. Shoot for the head. Right? So it's like, in that movie, in the beginning, he's telling him, man, without the sour, you can't taste the sweet. Without the sweet, you can't taste the sour. And it's one of those things, I always think about that. It's like, without those two things, there's no polarization. There's just none. Hey Mac, is true that if you don't get enough sleep, you have a bad mood all day? I remember watching that in one of your old streams. I don't know. You don't get a lot of sleep, B. Do you get in a bad mood all day?
No, probably like, maybe if I don't get enough, like later on in the day, starts to kind of go down a little bit, my energy and stuff. But yeah, I think quality of sleep too.
I think here's a combination. Like you're already in a slightly bad mood, and then something happens, and it fucking torches it for you. You know what I mean? You're like, oh shit.
I've also had it too, like where I get maybe like 3 hours of sleep, and I feel, I don't even know, maybe like this is euphoric or something. So it's a weird feeling, like.
Well, that might have been different. A wet dream or something.
No, it's different. I don't know. It's like you're I don't know. It's hard to explain, but it can't happen all the time. Like
you had a euphoric 3 hour dream.
No, not a dream. Like you wake up and you feel like you're energized more. I don't know. It's weird.
He said I could send you a screen recording of it now on IG. It's one of the funniest things you've ever said.
What?
Go ahead. By the way, if anyone wants to come on live right now and talk and ask me some questions, you got a breakup story, you want to rap a little bit, we can do a call in. You're gonna send it to me now, Eduardo?
He's on it.
It's one of the funniest things. Don't get enough sleep, you're in a bad mood all day. It doesn't sound that funny, but I must have said it in a certain tone. Didn't sleep well. I slept late last night too. But yeah, getting back to that Vanilla Sky movie, you guys got to check that out. It's a great movie in the sense that and then it's put together at the end where he planned it, and that's the way he appreciates his life and this and that. And my whole point, Smokey the Cat, if you're still on, right? And how did you come up with Smokey the Cat, by the way? I just want to know the backstory to that, because I know there's a backstory to it.
Let's get the info.
Because I know you don't smoke. But the whole point of it is, being down in the dumps is an opportunity to start appreciating when you're not. Shit, man. And guess what? It'll happen again, probably. Have you ever had that too? Like life's been so good for like 5-6 years, and all of a sudden you're like, how did this fucking happen again? Fucking back. I'm back in one of these situations again. Fuck. Man.
But then you're out of it, and life seems great.
Right. But I mean, there's certain times when they're like, people have asked me this many times, oh, you're a coach? You help people with their breakups? What about your own issues? Yeah, I got them, dude. What do? I fucking talk to myself. I ask myself, what are you going to do, coach? And then I fucking get the advice, man. Come on. What else am I going to do? Not going to ask B. Come on.
Could.
Wow. Sometimes you in those situations, it's like, check it out, please. All right. Too bad we can get it sent on the... I'll check it out right now. Oh, he cut it? Oh, wow. It's like a bad mood all day. True sleep's underrated, man. I'll tell you what, that's one of the things in my late 30s now. If I don't get my sleep, I'm fucked. It's like a bad mood all day. True sleep's underrated, man. I'll tell you what, that's one of the things in my late 30s now. If I don't get my sleep, I'm fucked. It's like a bad mood all day. True sleep's underrated, man. I'll tell you what, that's what...
You're fucked.
The power of the word fucked. Huh?
Delivers, man.
It delivers, man. It's like, how many uses can you use for the F word, huh?
Too many.
That was the key word in there, right?
Oh, definitely.
That's the key word. There's some people that do sleep too much. Yeah, I would agree.
I think there's been times where I've done it.
Thailand, it's a national pastime.
I feel worse. Like if I oversleep, I feel worse.
I'm one of those people. Once I wake up, I don't roll around for a bunch of time.
You can't just like lay there.
Yeah, well, there's also a fucking entry to set of pool villas next to me. That might sound really extravagant and cool, and it's kind of cool on paper. You're like, oh, there's an entrance to like pool villas in Thailand next to you. Yeah, it's the fucking entrance next to my bedroom. So you hear like honk, and, like people are arriving on their honeymoon or their getaway, and you hear them like, oh, where are we gonna go today? Oh, how are we gonna get the taxi? You hear all like, what's interesting about living somewhere where people go on vacation? A lot of people still don't have fun on vacation. They're all stressed out, dude. Have you ever noticed this? You see like half the people that are on vacation look pissed off. You know why? Because you just took them out of their monotonous, comfortable patterns. They're and they're like looking around. They're like, I gotta look busy. I gotta do something. It's like, just fucking go to the beach and get some sun, dude. All right, like fucking. You know what I mean? Like you don't need to go a bunch of places. Oh, I'm gonna have to set up some trips. All right, well, I mean, there's a world-class beach 5 minutes away.
Why don't you camp out there for a little bit?
Yeah, go there and have a fucking pina colada or a Mai Tai and just chill out, man. But I hear him next to my room. It's like, oh yeah, it's like, oh, let's get the tuk-tuk, let's do this, let's do that. It's like, come on, man. Yeah, I don't smoke. One of my best friends since elementary has a cat called Smokey. Cat is 21 years old now and chilling. Just felt like it was catchy. 21-year-old cat?
Jeez.
Oh, if that cat could talk. Right?
Yeah.
Can you confirm if being stressed from work can lead to a breakup?
Could.
Well, in my professional opinion.
Sure, that could happen.
I've talked about this before. Your job can really affect your relationship. And the reason why is that your stress from your job is going to affect things absolutely. So quit your job. Go on unemployment. No, I'm just playing. I'm assuming the shit drive can go down. I'll tell you what. One thing, if you had to give me like my top 3 things that I fucking hate, and there's not many things I hate, and hate's a strong word, is fucking traffic. Like... there's some people that are very chill about it. They're like, oh, I just pop in some music, like. I'm like, here's the thing about traffic. Traffic it wouldn't be so bad. And I've heard this because I know some people that have Teslas, and I don't know which model, but they drive themselves, right? It's not just cruise control. Like, did you know that?
Oh, yeah.
I was in one, and the guy was like, look at this, no hands. Like, I'm not even doing anything. It's like, oh, cool trick, man. Right, so that would, to me, like if I could sit in traffic and I just don't have to worry about stop go, because you have to fucking concentrate.
Yeah,
you have to concentrate on going 10 inches. That's the part where you're like, fuck, man. Then you get someone that cuts the line, that goes in front of you, and you're like, all right, here we go. Now we're not playing by the rules. Right? It's like, come on, man. And then I'll do it. And then I'll be like, I'll be honest, I'll do it. I'll be like, fuck this, man. Can't beat him, join him. Right? Yeah. Once you've lived in that and you're out of it after a while, you're like, fuck this, dude. Like, and like I said, that's the part. It's not the part, like, because I've heard people, I got some friends and family that are like big time tokers and say, oh, I just sit there and smoke in the car, man. I just chill. I don't care. And I'm like, it's like 3 hours in San Francisco, like on the bridge or one of those places, and people are just like, yeah, it's just part of it. It's like, it's horrible. Yeah. It's horrible. But some people are like, nah, it's not that big a deal. I kind of like being in the car. It's like, guess you don't like your house. You know what I mean? It's like but you got to concentrate. Because like, it's not just, if everyone just cooperated, you're like, all right, 10 inches, 10 inches, 10 inches, whatever, or 2 feet, 2 feet. Right? But then you just get someone that like goes, nudges in, you're like, yeah, you're gonna make a lot of progress right now, dude.
I'm one of those people that just doesn't give a fuck, though.
I know you are. And
actually, because I think it's partly because I like driving. Like I
know you do.
Even if it was, we used to go to snow trips all the time, like on the weekends in high school and college and whatever. And I would be more than cool with like driving, like leaving at 4 in the morning. Like that's totally fine for me. Yeah.
I know.
Never bothered me.
Good for you, man.
And I like it. I don't know why. I just like driving, like being behind the wheel. It's weird.
Like if I'm in traffic and I'm not driving, it's not as bad because I'm like, all right, I don't have to concentrate. But concentrating on that, I'd like to people watch or something like that. But man, like that's up there with not getting enough sleep, Eduardo. But going back to, can you confirm if being stressed from work can lead to a breakup? Absolutely. There was a client of mine I told you a while back that lived in LA, and he's like, oh, we found out the playbook. Every time his girlfriend came back from her job, I won't say what it was, he's like, she's always in a bad mood, this and that. I'm like, how much traffic is she sitting in? He's like, oh, like an hour and a half. I'm like, well, newsflash. Come on, man. Genius alert. It's like, come on, dude. It's like, why would she be in a good mood? Just leave her alone for the first hour. And if she's whiny or upset about something, just let her go. It's fine. Don't take it personal. Wow, she comes home with a big attitude. What were you doing while she was in an hour and a half of travel? I was just chilling.
Making Hot Pockets.
Yeah, Hot Pockets. Right? It's like, I guess you were, that's just being unmindful of the situation.
I mean, it could be the job too, like some jobs are incredibly stressful.
Right. So. Or you had a bad day at work. You know what I'd rather do? Hey, I'll just leave you alone. It's like, you want to talk about it?
No, I just want to chill, all right?
Man. I've had jobs where, like, there's other jobs too, like you like them, but they eat your energy. It's like I worked at a charity. I've talked about this before. I taught kids that were first grade all the way to
young kids,
high school, and you had like 20 to 25 hours of teaching hours a week, and someone's like, well, that's not even 40 hours. It were different classes. So you'd have, I want to say 6 or 7 different classes for 2 or 3 hours. So you're always with a different group. And like the kindergarten or first grade kids, it was fun. It wasn't like I was sitting there in the corner going, oh, I hate this job. I was like, hey, Apple. I was doing all those things, like I'm giving the kids high fives and doing those things. It was a great life experience, right? But you get home and you're through. You're like, it's like done. It's spent. And you'd think, oh, well, that wasn't that much labor. It's a lot on your mind, man. Driving's a lot of mind work. You just do it naturally. But like thinking about how many moving parts are in place when you drive, like looking at your mirrors when you change, and you do this in trance.
Well, that's why they say that the Tesla stuff you were talking about is really, really hard to do. It's because like you don't realize how much actually goes into driving. Like it's
underrated. Yeah. It's underrated. My old job, I had to talk a lot, so when I got home, I just like to be in silence.
Yeah.
Well, welcome to the party, hon. I've been talking for 4 hours before. Smokey the cat is still on deck. He knows. I was like I said, when I started the live stream, I'm like, I'm a little off right now. I was like, oh shit, I did about 3.5 hours of pure talking before this. Jeez. I have another video to share about the my ex is dating someone else. And correct me if I'm wrong for the 9 people are on deck. Some of this stuff, like I've told B, I've talked about it recently. It's like I watch some of this stuff and I'm like, people are getting like, this stuff is getting really commercial. It's getting very infomercial. Now tell me when I bring this one up, do you think it's kind of like an infomercial? Do you think that this is authentic advice? Eduardo Martinez, I can understand your situation, Rye. My brother-in-law works at a nightclub, and when he's off of work, he refuses to listen to music in his car at home. He values the silence. It's funny you said that. I knew a guy that was what I would call a bouncer. I don't know what they call him now.
Yeah, bouncer.
Right? Like and he would say the same thing. He would say that he'd come home with his friends and he'd be like, dude, turn the fucking music off.
I've been hearing it all night.
Yeah.
I don't want to hear it.
It's like, too much of anything. Too much of anything makes you an addict or just makes you sick of it. He values the silence. Shit. All right, let me pull this up real quick. I want to. My ex is dating someone else already and it hurts. All right, so just. we're here listening and working on this work presentation for tomorrow. You have a work presentation for tomorrow, Smokey? Work presentation. Maybe you're a different Smokey the Cat than I was thinking of if you have a work presentation. I don't know. Doesn't seem like that would be your thing. We're also waiting for your book. I'm waiting for it too.
Yeah, I'm waiting.
I've got the notes. I've got the outlines on it. Shit. Man, I have so much stuff written in different parts. It'll come together one day. I'll tell you, if you're interested, I'll show you the outline real quick. I have an outline of what it's going to be. Sometimes when the ex is dating a certain type of person, you can predict within a fairly accurate range that it will fail. Here's the thing, though, Rob. There are soft spots for people. Talked about this many times, right? There's some people, for example, you're like, they don't seem like a very good couple. They don't get along, but the guy's, I don't know, worth $10 million and she's broke. They'll stay together. Intimacy's outstanding and the guy's highly attracted to her. He'll eat shit on a dog plate and go, I can't believe it. She's done. It's like, why don't you want to leave? It's like, well, actually.
Intimacy's pretty.
Yeah. So like there's things that people cling to. And then everyone's going, oh, what happened here? Man, the stories. I'm thinking possibly of just making a book that are just the stories.
Okay.
That are just, and it won't be chicken soup for the soul. What would it be called? I'm a registered dietitian? Good for you. That fucking made my day. Good for you. Wow, man. Are you serious? Fucking registered dietitian? That's so ironic. A client I just talked to earlier, he's going to school for that. He's going to university. I didn't know you had to go to school for that. I thought you could just read a couple books. Fucking registered dietitian. Outstanding, bro. Wow, man. Shit, man. I didn't even know you cooked. Does that go hand in hand, though? Or like, if you're a dietitian, you got to know how to cook, right?
Yeah, I think so.
B's like, yeah, sure. Okay. I don't know.
Like a professional
dietitian. Yeah. I'm a registered dietitian. What does that even mean? I'm a registered dietitian. That means like,
you can help
is there some underground black market dietitians out there? You're like, listen, dude, this guy's not registered, but he says he's a fucking dietitian.
I'm only going to the registered ones. Yeah.
What's your views on Sebi? Have you ever heard of Dr. Sebi?
No.
That's one if you're a dietitian, because that would probably be someone that, are you into herbs and different things like that? Fuck, registered dietitian. Fuck, man. Surprise every day. Good for you. Good for you, man. I was just talking, you want to hear something funny, Smokey the Cat? This client I was talking to earlier today, and he'll get this. He's in his early 20s, which me and you knew each other in our early 20s. And he's a bit of a smart ass. And he likes to make fun of people and joke around quite a bit. And he's funny. He's a funny dude. But sometimes he's like, sometimes I say some fucked up shit, dude. He's like, I say some fucked up shit. And I'm like, what'd you say? He's like, oh, like this girl that has a big nose. I'm like, toucan nose or this or that. I'm like, all right. I mean, what's your intention in saying that? Because joking with different people have different sense of humors, right? So being someone myself that used to like to make fun of people a little bit, Smokey the Cat, not everyone can handle it. But you think, so I go, what's your intention? He's like, I just want to be funny. I just think it's funny. And I'm like, that's exactly what I used to say. But the thing is, she might be crying about that comment when she gets home, but whatever, be yourself. But he was saying this other story where this other guy was like a tutor at the university he's at. And he's like, dude, you're a fucking tutor. I would never get tutoring from you. They made you a tutor? And he's like laughing, telling me the story. And he's like, dude, the guy got really mad and doesn't even talk to me anymore. And the guy just like cut me off, and he was like a friend of mine. I'm like, I go, well, how did that make you feel? Did you feel funny? And he's like, nah, I kind of feel really bad. But he's like, it was funny though, you know, I meant it to be funny. I'm like, well, this is what I would recommend. I said, send him an apology, like a text or an email, and just say, hey man, I'm sorry, that was out of line, because that wasn't my intention. I was just joking around trying to be funny, and it didn't land well. And apologize. Now, when I was 22, I never did, and I thought I was fucking funny. But I was saying, like, what I did realize when I was in my early 20s, and I worked at Nordstrom for years, which is like service first, be nice. I was like, I like being nice to people. Like, I like being like, there's something that I get out of being nice to people that makes me feel good too. But your idea that you're being funny, you're the audience, right? And it's okay, because like I said, some people it's fine. But you know, things like that later on when you get older, you're like, fucking asshole, dude. But it can be funny.
Right.
I mean, some of the things I said, and it's clever, right? It's like, oh, it's so fucking clever. That's what my thing is. Like when I tease someone or make fun of someone, it's like fucking, like someone with predictable, easy humor. I'm like, yeah, okay, man. Yeah, you have to wear a nice suit. But yeah, going back to that, I'm like, he's been doing a lot of work on different things, and I'm like, one thing that'll help with that is you're not gauging like who's up for that kind of sense of humor. But at the same time, this might sound crazy, but I said go out of your way to make clever compliments that are a little over the top, that are funny. That's what I do. It's like a waitress I know at a cafe or something, I'm like, you look great, hon. You know, I really like that dress, or something like that. And someone like, oh God, but it's funny. It's like, did you change your hair or something like that? Like, show some interest, like see how that makes you feel compared to making some fun of some guy because he's a tutor, or calling someone big nose, and you think it's, you know what I mean? I'm like, it's funny, but
For certain people, it can.
for certain people, right? It's fine. I mean, but what are you getting from it? Would be the question. I've come a long way. That's for damn sure. Smokey the cat knows. I like to tease people myself. I'm pretty good at it. But I know when to stop, and I know when someone doesn't like it. So you can be a degreed nutritionist with a 4-year degree, but to be a registered dietitian, you need to be a 1-year internship on a board exam. Crazy thing, after this year, you need a master's to be a dietitian. All right. Well, fucking congratulations, bro. I'm happy for you, man. That's cool, man. And I'm not surprised. I mean, I'm acting like I was like, oh, you know, I'm not surprised, man. You're one of those people that you put your mind to anything.
Gets done.
Yeah. You could have been MacGyver. I mean, this guy, he's serious. Smokey the Cat, minus the name, probably one of the smartest people I know. Easily. Guy divulges information like a fucking encyclopedia that's alive. I mean, seriously. I mean, he's one of these people that has knowledge on everything. And you're just like, you know about that? Yeah. He'll go into something. It's like, oh, you had bad sleep last night?
Right.
He'll have 2 hours of information on it. Right? And he won't do the thing where it's like, oh, I've read a study. There's 60% of the population that's like, doesn't sleep well. It's like, where'd you get that from? No, this guy will have like detailed things. I'm someone that chooses you to be their dietitian, they're going to get their money's worth. That's for damn sure. Fuck, man. You want to see? Right? See how it's nice to be positive?
Yeah.
Human encyclopedia. Seriously. Unbelievable. Smartest guy in the room, and he knows it. That's a good dietitian to have, right? I suppose, is there do you never stop learning about a better diet? Mac despises any conversation with percentages included.
I agree with that.
Well, I mean, it's just a throwaway statement at this point, right? I do it sometimes. I'm like, oh, yeah, maybe there's a 50-50 chance. Sometimes I say it, right? Just like recently, like sometimes for years, and you'll probably notice it, I don't really review what I have on my videos. Like, I just make a video and then upload it. And I was like, wow. And I used to always say that I can't stand when people say the word like all the time. And then I was like, I fucking say that word sometimes too, man.
Yeah, right. You just don't notice.
Yeah, you don't notice, but I don't go like, and then like we were like about to leave, and like I don't know, like it was crazy. That's one of the worst ones. If you ever meet someone like that, go to SoCal or one of those places.
Yeah.
And there's people that talk that way, and you go, we were, and there's professional people that talk like that.
Mm-hmm.
But it's funny that it's funny because I just saw this video, like Chris Williamson, who I like, who does some good things. I got to pull this one up actually, not the one I was just about to show.
You mentioned this before.
What?
A video. We'll pull it up. Let's see.
Oh no, this is a fresh one. You'll like this one. You'll like this one. This is a classic. Stay with me, folks. Oh man, why couldn't it just be? Well, yeah, this is the one I think. I just don't want the long version. Here I am that made a 3-hour live stream and I'm looking for short versions. Fucking ironic, huh?
It's ironic.
I took a shaming too.
Oh no, that's not it. Explains why slut shaming exists. That's a fucking interesting topic. I know Smokey the Cat will like that one. We'll throw that one in the play. I'll need to change my username now. Honestly, the right diet is variable from one person to the. Look at you! Look at this little fucking company, man. Jesus, man. Shit, man. Don't get him confused. He doesn't work at GNC. This guy's fucking registered.
Right.
Okay? I don't believe there's one needed to be followed health success as it depends on our end goal. What a little company line.
What I'm talking
Do you know any background on man, it's great to hear from you. I hope we were able to reconnect again after fucking 5 years or whatever it's been. Have you ever heard about what happened with Rick Rubin? Here's a good question for a dietitian that I'm curious about. Maybe we'll get you on live if you're feeling bold. The carnivore diet.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of an interesting one to me.
I tried it for like a week.
What'd it do? You just ate meat?
I didn't stick with it long enough. So
What meats did you eat?
Chicken. Let's see. I can't remember. It was probably like a year ago. But I don't know. I don't think I stuck with it long enough to really feel any benefits or anything.
Oh man,
It was just really hard, to be honest with you.
to just eat meat.
Yeah.
What motivated you to go on a meat diet?
I just heard a lot about it, like, I don't know. I just heard a lot about it.
Like that Rick Rubin claims that he just went on a carnivore diet and it made him lose all this weight.
That's what Peterson says, Jordan Peterson.
Yeah. He got it from his daughter, who's nepotism at its finest.
You don't like her?
I mean,
I haven't seen too much stuff on her, though.
she wouldn't have a place without her dad being who it is. And it's like she's got these people on, and then you hear her interview people, and it's like, well, Jordan wasn't able to pass on his genius. That's kind of messed up, isn't it? B's like, can't talk like that, man. I'm just saying.
Makes me uncomfortable, right?
I'm curious about this one I just pulled up here. Yeah, didn't JP do it? Yeah, he did. Jordan Peterson did.
Yeah.
And he's right. He got it from his All right, let me just show this really quick though. Like when I'm going through some of these other channels that do breakup stuff and different things, and I see something like this, I'm like, God, am I like, how do I come off in this space being here for 4 years after seeing something like this, right? And it's like, let me just show you guys this. Let me see this.
I do no contact if my ex is seeing someone else? This is a pretty popular question I receive in my one-on-one coaching sessions. And if you are new to Love Advice TV, I want to begin by saying welcome. This is a channel me, Coach Natalie, and my amazing partners developed for you guys there at home to help you coach yourselves through whatever challenges you're facing in your relationships. And we create videos just like this one, and we release them every single day so that you guys have a home away from home where you can be vulnerable and transparent and authentic, and you can share your relationship struggles with us in a really safe space. So, welcome. When it comes to this video in particular, we're going to be discussing whether or not you should reach out to an ex who's in a relationship. Does no contact work? I'm going to go ahead and say, yes, it absolutely works. If your ex is seeing someone new, I would not start reaching out to them incessantly. I know that what you want to do is reattract them, and I understand that. But there's a couple of things that we have to consider. Number one, why did your breakup happen? Don't worry about this new person for a second. Why did you break up with your ex? Why did your ex break up with you? What was going wrong? What weren't we fulfilling? What weren't we communicating? What wasn't working? Because until we've assessed and established and found resolve with that, it doesn't matter whether or not you reach out to your ex, because it won't fix this. You fix this by fixing you first, and then you can reach out, whether they're in another relationship or not. However, but until the change occurs, it won't be successful. So I invite you to, rather than focusing on this new person, which I know you
I know B loves Coach Natalie, and right.
Devout follower. Yeah.
Why does it look like the set she's in a Golden Girls episode?
I didn't see it.
Oh, it hasn't come up yet? It's on delay a little bit. It's just so dramatic. So let me talk about something today.
Oh, yeah.
If you're in no contact, I'm going to tell you something right now. It's time to work on yourself. It's really time to work on yourself. And if you want to do a one-on-one coaching, we make videos once a week. And we make videos once a week just for you. Just for you. Just for you. And I know it's a hard time right now. And she's like losing her voice, you know. It's like someone runs with a cup of tea in the background. She's got a turtleneck on. It's like, whoa, man.
You're right about the set too.
The set's Golden Girls, bro. It's like, you know, it's like
right.
It's all been staged, right? It's like I know you guys are going through it right now. So anyone out there that's thinking about doing a coaching session with myself, it'll be far different than this.
You don't have the same setup.
No. Have you Rwandan book by Sean Baker, The Carnivore Diet? If you haven't, don't. It's honestly not the healthiest to follow on a long-term path, but does help with weight loss and A1C blood. Look at this guy. He just is begging to divulge facts, huh? When do you want to come on the show, man? Do you want me to send you a link right now? Shit, man. Oh my goodness. So here's another one. Let's take a look at this together.
Letter the other day. So I'm going to two of both of our obsessions, game theory and dating dynamics. So this was to do with slut shaming. Female promiscuity has a tragedy of the commons effect in the mating market. If one woman offers blowjobs on the second date, it's harder for other women to keep them in reserve until the fourth date as their special treat. This creates a downward spiral of young women feeling like they have to offer more sex and to more guys just to stay in the mating game. Thus, slut shaming is a way of enforcing a more restrained sexual norm on other women so that not all women have to become more promiscuous than any one of them would like. That shit fucking blew my mind.
And it's really, unless you have this kind of game theory perspective, it's really hard to understand why slut shaming is mostly done by women to other women.
Correct. It also makes a
Right.
lot of sense around why women tend to be the enforcers of slut shaming, because so frequently, because women are the ones who have an incentive to protect the sexual marketplace from becoming a price war of easy sex.
Yeah. And this is also why, you know, the main opponents of sex work are often married women, right? Because they have the most to lose if husband goes off, you know, and spends money on an escort or some financial dominatrix or whatever. And if you just ask, like, okay, where are people's incentives? You know, what's the incentive to impose a certain social norm on human sexuality? Often it's not that hard to figure out why it's happening.
There's another case. I did a little bit of research around who opposes abortions mostly, and it's women. There are more women that oppose abortions than there are men.
And I think a lot of that might be a bit of a virtue signal, right? Because if you're a woman who's like, babies are sacred, we have to protect babies, it's kind of like a way of saying my maternal instincts are better than yours, and I'm going to be a good mom. And one way I demonstrate I will be a good and devoted mom who will, you know, protect your babies is to insult other women who seem not to protect their fetuses.
That's the first half of it, right? That's what you guys put forward in the book. And then I worked it through using bro science on my newsletter. Reading that first section about the fact that women enforce it mostly and why you can't have the price of sexual access kind of get spiraled down and down. Reading that got me thinking about the equivalent for men, and I think that it explains simp shaming too. So I reword what you put at the top. Male resource commitment has a tragedy of the commons effect in the mating market. If one man offers gifts and resources by the second date, it's harder for the other men to keep them in reserve until the fourth date as their special treat. This creates a downward spiral of young men feeling like they have to offer more and more gifts and go on increasingly extravagant dates to more and more women just to stay in the mating game. Thus, simp shaming is a way of enforcing a more restrained resource-giving norm on other men so that not all men have to become more resource-committed than any of them would like. Similarly, this explains why men are mostly the enforcers of simp shaming, because men have an incentive to stop simps from cheapening the value of all men's resources. It's hardly an iron law. Men call women sluts and women call men simps all the time, but this game theory explanation makes a lot of sense to me. If women give sex without commitment, it cheapens the value of sex. If men give resources or commitment without sex, it cheapens the value of resources and commitment.
Yeah, and you can see this in some weird little subcultures like financial domination, right? Where you might not be familiar with this, but there's a certain kind of online sex worker who's just like, I'm the dominatrix, you send me money.
So how is he familiar with it? You might not be familiar with this, but I am.
He did a lot of research. He did a lot of sex work research.
Oh my god, dude. You know what's interesting now is like when you go through YouTube, how many people talk about shit like this book, and it's like, so have you been a part of this subculture or this scene? No. I'm just studying it. It's like, or have you? I mean, what would be interesting is like, well, I used to be a dominatrix or whatever, or been a part of this scene or whatever. He's talking about it from like, well, like this, you know, educated view. But getting back to it, it's kind of interesting what they said about shaming women and men shaming men for being simps.
Right.
That's an interesting thing that I didn't think about before. Right. That this whole movement of guys shaming other guys for that, but when the guys that have the resources to like be like, you know what, I don't care.
I'll send her
I don't care. So here's an interesting one. One of the better podcasts that I've watched, because the guy's so genuinely authentic. Who do you think it is? Probably the most, like, he is not playing a role at all. He's being himself. I don't know him personally.
I would say Lex Friedman, but I have no idea who you're talking about.
Yeah, Lex Friedman, I would say, is being authentically himself. Yeah, he's not trying to be anyone different. Yeah, okay.
I have no idea.
Athlete. probably one of the top athletes over this century. Oh, or I would say yeah.
And he has a podcast?
He has a podcast. Smokes a lot of weed now.
Tyson?
Tyson.
Okay.
Because Tyson's just he's not
Right.
trying any agenda.
Right.
He's just, some of the things you agree or disagree. He's just talking, right?
Yeah.
Some of the stuff he talks about. Now, here's the funny thing. Listen, I'm going somewhere with this simp world, right? I've never been in a situation where I considered myself that way or was called one of these things. But he always talks about, man, I was giving him cars. I was giving him, $10,000 to stay the night. He talks about it all the time. Now, I'd love to see someone be like, come on Mike's show and be like, you were a simp, bro. Like, wouldn't you wouldn't you love that?
Yeah.
Like someone from the, you know what I mean? Would they step up and be like, wow, you were buying all these women cars and stuff? And Mike would be like, I don't care, man. I was making 50 million. I was making 20 million. That was stupid.
So what's 100? Or
But he
what's
talks
50
about it
grand?
all the time. He just had, I don't watch his show a lot, but Fat Joe,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
The rapper.
From back in the day.
And Fat Joe and him are going back and forth. They're both smoking weed and stuff like that. And he's like, Fat Joe's like, nah, don't tell him the story, Mike. No. And Mike's like, go ahead. I don't care. Go ahead. I don't care. And he's like, nah, man. Like, we don't have to go there. I've never told that story. And of course, you're like, what's the story,
What's the
right?
story now?
Right. And then he's like, I think Fat Joe had came there with his sister or a close friend that was a female, right, to his house.
Right.
And he said Mike Tyson opens the door naked, like in Vegas. And Mike Tyson's like, like laughing. And he's like, yeah. And he's like, Mike, get your clothes on. And
Yeah.
Mike's like, all right, and puts on like a towel or a robe. And then he's like, seriously? He goes, Mike, do you want me to really tell this story? And Mike's like, go ahead. My wife knows everything about me. Da, 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 da. I don't care. It's fine. It's funny. Go ahead. Go ahead. And he's like, man, Mike, every room in his house had a woman in the room, like a female, right? And Mike's like, right?
Yeah.
And so the story got to the point where they were at dinner, and like I said, the part I don't remember, I could probably pull it up, is I don't know if it was his sister or his friend, like he was calling it his sister,
okay.
right?
Right.
And Mike was trying to get her to stay, to be a part of the group,
A part of the
the team,
one
yeah.
of the rooms,
And he was
yeah.
offering her cars and money, and they were laughing about it. They were laughing about the fact that he was offering all
To,
these
like,
things.
join the team,
Yeah. And he was like, man, Mike, she doesn't want to stay. He's like, no, I'll give you Mercedes. Like, right? Who's going to come on Mike Tyson's show and go, man, you're a simp? No one ever says that, right? No one ever goes, oh, this guy's just a total. It's like, nah, it doesn't apply there. Would that apply as a
I was trying to
simp?
think. I don't know.
It-
I think
Under the technical term.
maybe, but not in my mind. That's just
Why
being-
would
I
it
don't
be
know.
different?
I think because of the stereotype I have of what a simp is. Like if some dude in a basement just like sending money to like OnlyFans girls or something. That's what I think of as a simp.
That's a closet simp.
Maybe. Yeah.
I just like simp to me is a new thing. Like I don't remember using it quite a bit. I know what it is and stuff like that. It's just thrown around all the time now. But it's interesting how they put it in this context that guys that are shaming other guys, like I'm saying, like if you look at Mike Tyson, you're not going to shame him for doing that. It's
Right.
kind of cool.
Yeah.
Like a lot of songs talk about doing this. It's kind of interesting, right? I can't find the one that I was looking for. I'll have to get Mike Tyson on the show and talk to him about it.
Break it down.
Tyson's a legend, dude. But yeah, he's very like he'll be like, nah, he's okay with being the person that's not the smartest person in the room. He's not trying to prove anything.
He
right?
definitely is the I don't give a fuck.
That's what I mean.
Yeah.
It's refreshing. And but that situation, that's an interesting one, right? Like I said, like is anyone else gonna from the red pill community be like, man, he's a simp, dude? Like or because the fact that he had so many resources, it's okay.
And he was hooking up with him.
I mean, he's been Man, I wanted to pull up this one that came up yesterday. Wow, he does a lot of this. Oh, here it is. Here it is.
Years ago, they really
this
tried.
is a gem. Man, I just wanted the Catherine Salmon. What are women really attracted to, Catherine? Okay. I can't pull up the whole thing. Stay with me here. All right, stop the screen. Smokey the Cat, are you still on deck? I'm starting to think when you say you listen to guys until I found you and Corey Wayne, I don't know if this is the same Smokey the Cat. I'm not sure if that... You're going to have to email me, man. Or Instagram me.
So I found...
This is the one. All right. I think I got it. All right, folks, let's see here. This is interesting. What are women really attracted to? Let me pull this. Why people enjoy facial deposits? I don't even know what that means. This is. Do you think that means what I think it means?
Good. I have no idea.
Is that
recently do a study about reaction to jizz on the face porn stimuli?
I did do a study on that. In fact, I actually have just completed a follow-up study as well. So it's all about cum shots these days.
What's all about cum shots? Is your life all about cum shots?
I don't know that my life is all about cum shots. I mean, but certainly lately it has seemed to be the topic of conversation. If you tell somebody you're doing that, that's what they want to hear about.
Okay, I want to hear about it. Please tell me everything.
Sure. I mean, part of the reason for being interested in it is because for a long time, there has been, I think, a lot of claims about the nature of pornography, that it's about degrading women, it has all these negative connotations, right? And there are a bunch of different researchers who've assessed this in different kinds of ways. But one sort of theme that has run through things is the idea that an external ejaculation that is deposited on the face is seen as being degrading or seen in a negative light. And there's a number of ways that you could actually think about that. And a number of years ago, I read a chapter in a book that made me really think about this. And the chapter had a line in it about how what makes coming on somebody's body degrading and coming inside them sacred. And that made me think, okay, that's not necessarily a bad point. Why do we have such a focus on it as being a negative thing? And what does it really mean that it is so ubiquitous in pornography, that it's really difficult to find pornography, in fact, where you won't see a scene like that somewhere in the film? And so we decided to do a study where we would actually show people faces that had deposits made on them and ask them about how arousing or how degrading they found those images to be and how much they liked the pictures. And we actually had subjects, not our own students, because our own students can be fragile, but we recruited adults from the general population to do this. And so we had people look at faces that we varied, right? So some of them they all looked at the same faces, but they either looked at faces that were male faces or female faces, right? We looked at, and so because we were also interested in the sexual orientation of people and how that might influence this. So we had them look at male faces and female faces, and we also varied them in terms of their reaction. So whether the person looked happy about having a cum shot on their face, or whether they looked neutral about it, or whether they looked very unhappy about it. And so, as you might expect, from if you have sort of a view that men like it when their partners are enjoying what's going on, men watching these images generally preferred the faces where the females actually looked like they were enjoying the experience. Whether they were male or female faces that they were looking at. There definitely is also an effect of the preferred sex. So for men, straight men don't really like looking at pictures of other men with ejaculate on their face.
Groundbreaking work here. Groundbreaking work, B. I mean, this is, and she's got the twins out on her photo, so it's not surprising that she, this is. And honestly, I didn't plan to bring this up today, and I didn't know that this was part of the show. I just couldn't resist. So, but face deposit, I was like, is this face?
Yeah,
I've never heard
that's what I was
I've never heard
thinking.
the term face deposit. This is groundbreaking work that she's doing, and the fact that she's like, oh, straight males don't like to see other males with face deposits.
Thank you for that info.
I actually learned something new from this video, so I will give a lot of credit for the face deposit thing. Now I know how to technically describe. Maybe that'll be a part of profiles now. Like, are you up for face deposits? But like, she's so excited to talk about it. You're like, we know what you're up to.
yeah.
We know what you're researching on.
That's funny.
Good for you, right? I mean, with some of this research shows, I mean, you could have asked me and I would have said, I don't need any research on that one, hon. Like,
How much did this research cost?
right? It's like, according to this evolutionary biologist who likes to dress with her cleavage hanging out in an educational way and talk about face deposits with a big grin on her face, right? Yeah. Good for you. I wish I had you as a teacher in college or high school, man.
See how happy she is right
Oh man. Wow. I mean, and what a great topic. I mean, what a great topic. This has never been touched on. This is the first time I've ever seen this in the public. Chris Williamson's doing some groundbreaking stuff here. It's like, surprisingly, research shows actually that
Not many,
if the female enjoys the face deposit, it's actually preferred by. It's like, okay.
Not many people are willing to do the research, Mac.
How about the shirt though?
That's-
How about the professional shirt? It's like you hear evolutionary biologists and you're like, oh, okay, sure. She studies milk, right? Come on, man. Jeez, good for you. Who comes up with that too? Like, hey, I'm gonna start. Listen, there hasn't been enough research on face deposits, right?
Yeah.
Did anyone on this chat know the term face deposits? You don't have to, and by the way, you don't have to mention my show when you talk about this over the week. Like, hey, have you guys heard of face deposits? You don't have to be like, hey, have you seen
Mac was really
on Coach Mac's show that he had
he was really enthused with this topic.
he broke the news.
Yeah. Mac broke the news, yeah.
Some of this stuff, man, it's so funny because it's one of those things that's like everything can be talked about in an educational way. Oh man. Smokey the Cat, I got it. I did have you confused with someone else actually.
So
But I remember you. Still in PB. Well, I'm glad you're doing well, bud. I got your Instagram message, dietitian. So when I was like, good for you, I was thinking you were someone else. I actually thought a college roommate of mine. That's why I was laughing. That's why I had it confused. Well, we got 12 on deck. Everyone went speechless after the face deposits.
I mean, that's a lot to process, you know.
And look at how much. I mean, it's like she's at Disneyland talking about it. You know, it's like this is just actually talk about a way to sell books. I got to put that. Someone was like, "When's your book coming out?" Maybe I have to put a chapter on face deposits being a part of it. You know, just mentioning the importance of that.
Do you want me to reach out to this woman?
Absolutely, that'd be great. I think she'd be great on the show. I'd have a lot of questions for her.
Okay.
And I'd say speak freely, right?
Don't hold anything back.
Nope. Catherine Salmon, Modern Wisdom. Incredible, Catherine. Incredible. Or, well, the other video that I broke down earlier, like that was another evolutionary psychology. It's like he's talking so serious about different topics about those things. It's kind of funny, man. Some of the things out there now, it's not shocking, is it? Let me just let's no pun.
They were not so happy with those. They were their least preferred photo for them was the one with guys that had cum on their face. But homosexual men, actually, that was their favorite photo of them. Not surprising, right? For women, it was actually interesting. Women in general didn't like the images as much. But for the women, if you looked at them across their sexual orientation, bisexual women actually liked the images a little bit more than either heterosexual or lesbian women, which was also kind of interesting and might actually have more to say about what shapes bisexuality than anything else.
Perhaps some sort of openness to experience type thing, maybe.
Exactly, that it might be a sort of general interest in sex. And a more sort of sexual exploration kind of thing that's influencing that. And that's why they had those views. When you looked at the men, it was much more linear in terms of the relationship, in terms of like, okay, so gay guys' preferences were here and straight guys were like, oh my God. The women, it was actually looked like a little top hat. So it was a little bit of a different kind of picture. So and we were interested in other things too, like whether disgust sensitivity would play a role. If people are really worried about pathogens, maybe they would be less likely to like such images. And it did have an effect. In general, people who are very high on pathogen avoidance are not as keen on bodily fluids, especially near the face. And we also found a few other things that mattered, including sociosexuality, which shouldn't be surprising. In general, people who are more permissive in their sexual attitudes or more interested in short-term mating also enjoyed the images more. So for the most part, we found the sorts of things that we were kind of hoping to find in terms of the results, at least in terms of going back to that.
So I found the other day an article by Patricia Sanchez in scipost.org. Rough sex associated with novelty seeking but not aggression. Rough sex is usually associated with aggression, but new research published in EVO-S Journal, the Journal of Evolutionary Studies Consortium, found that engaging in rough sex may be more indicative of novelty seeking than aggressive tendencies. Rough sexual behaviors have been thought of as sexual aggression for decades, but recent research shows that rough sex may be more so recreational and consensual by both parties. Rough sexual behaviors have been shown to increase in situations that involve male jealousy and being separated from a sexual partner. This is in quotes. While these analyses provide clues as to what motivates or triggers rough sexual behavior, several questions remain unanswered. Jealousy may be one motivator for men, but rough sex was reportedly desired and initiated by both sexes. So what the motivators are for both sexes, or particularly for women, remains unexplored. What are your thoughts on that, Catherine?
My thoughts on it is that it sounds familiar. But I think in terms of the sort of unexplored, the what's driving women to initiate rough sex or to be interested in it, I think there could be a couple different things. One of them is actually what you were alluding to before, this issue about the idea that.
So she's an evolutionary psychologist, and she keeps saying, I think, which means I don't know. Which means this is based on my experience more than, it's kind of interesting. So B was really excited. He was like, dude, you got to show this video today. I was like, what is it about? He's like, it's a surprise. Yeah. Thanks, bud. I appreciate that. Facial deposits and great, man. Tomorrow I'll bring something new.
I'll bring some more. Don't worry.
Man, some of the stuff that gets discussed and studied, right? It's like we had studies about this. It's like, I would just be curious, like, what's the use other than maybe good content for YouTube, like to study this?
Yeah, like this, I have no idea.
Riflin says, great job, B. Yeah, right on, man. Right on top of it. This is excellent stuff. This is groundbreaking work. Right? B's like, I wish I could be part of the study.
No one consulted me. What's going on?
Like some of these studies and stuff, people must be like how would they even approach people to be a part of this kind of a study? You know, it would have to be a certain, like people would be like
type of person.
Well, first of all, someone would be like, what's a facial deposit? First time I've ever heard of it. Jeez,
Tell me
Louise.
more. Tell me more. Okay.
Yeah. Wow. And then the results was like, not surprising, not surprising. Okay. Great work, man. Pulitzer Prize. Well, the Pulitzer Prize is for writing. Excuse me. I don't know what we'd call this one. What an outfit, too, huh? Do you think she contributed to the facial deposit?
Source material.
Like, gladly? That might be a little over. Like,
Yeah,
B's like,
yeah.
I'm not going to say that. I'm not going to say that. But it's possible. Excuse me, sir. You seem like the type of guy to deliver a facial deposit. Would you please take a survey?
Yeah.
Thanks. Clutch comes on, right? You've been waiting an hour and 45 minutes to step in on that
to
one,
drop that
huh?
bomb.
Jesus Christ. Come on, man. Right on time. Thanks, Clutch. I was just about to wrap it up. Jeez, some of this stuff, man. Like I said, like you go around, you're like, oh, let me. This is the kind of stuff too. Like, I mean, it's got to be dramatic or it's got to be salacious, but you know what?
That's what gets the people going.
Oh my goodness, what what behind the veil of an evolutionary psychologist is groundbreaking studies on facial deposits, which have only been around for the last 20 years. It's actually a new development.
It's gonna make me research more of her work. I mean, come on.
Oh man, I don't know, man. If you had to do a study, what would you choose?
Study?
Yeah, B. I'm just curious. After maybe this kind of stirred some things in your mind.
Jeez, I don't know.
What would you just whatever comes to mind first, based on what we just saw? What would you want to do a study on?
About sex, like about this?
Well,
specifically?
I mean,
have
if
no
that's
idea.
what you'd want to, you know. What would you?
I don't know. I'd have to think about.
You
that
have
one.
something in your
Jesus.
mind, but you don't want to share.
have
It's all right
no
if you're
idea.
going to be shy about it. Don't. There's no shame in this.
Okay, what would your study be then?
No, you can't do that. You can't answer a question with a question. You
I have
can't
no-
answer a question with a question. It doesn't work that way. Never has. It's
You're
just.
deflecting.
I'm not deflecting.
You're well, you don't have one either. That's why.
I have plenty.
Okay, what's one? I don't.
I'm going to save them for the show tomorrow because it's going to be a
Okay,
long
alright.
topic. But I'd like to get yours first.
Right.
And I think it's an honest question to ask. Your face isn't on camera, so no one will know. Just tell us what you think.
I have no idea. Honestly, no way. Let me think about it for a second. I have no
You
idea.
have something in your head, and you're like, no, not that. I don't know. No, not that.
I don't know. I'm on the spot. I don't know. I need something to help me out. What's one of yours? And then maybe that'll.
No, that's not how it works.
See,
I don't want you
have
to.
one.
No,
See, you don't have one.
no.
You say you have a
I
few.
can.
You have a few.
I could do a whole show on it.
Alright.
But I'm saying, like, do you have one that you'd be like, hey,
A research top. A research.
yeah, research topic. Like, you're like, hey, man, I got all this money. I want to donate to John Hopkins in the name of intercourse.
I have no idea.
Come on, man. You got to have something. There's something in your head, and you're like,
Can't put me on the spot, man.
I know Clutch will have one. What's a research topic that you could counter for Catherine Salmon and her team?
Funder research for a little bit.
What would be a
What do you
good?
do?
What would be a good one? What would be a good one, right? I know, man. I always forget that this thing's on delay, right?
A little bit, yeah.
It's on delay quite a bit. Man, stuff that's out there right now, unbelievable. Nothing shocking anymore, huh?
Definitely not.
I suppose one could be like, you could just go
Okay, here we go. What's
a
yours?
research idea where the impacts of daddy role playing in modern culture. What do you mean daddy role playing? Like, what in what regard is a research idea? Eduardo Martinez is still on deck. I mean, really popular videos right now are ones where guys just go to downtowns like San Diego, Sacramento, like cities, and they just ask these kind of questions.
Oh yeah, I've seen a few pop up
And then,
like that. Yeah.
and then they just, and then
So like the
and the
nightclubs or
ironic
something?
thing is like they ask these questions in places where people drink.
Yeah, like outside of bars, nightclubs, or whatever.
Right.
Yeah.
So women probably wouldn't answer these questions like in their work attire. They've had a few cocktails.
Yeah.
Right. And so like it's pretty funny though what comes up. That's sick to me. Why men like that daddy calling?
Like call me daddy.
The impacts of daddy role playing in modern culture. That's sick to me. Did you just mean like a guy that tells his girlfriend to call him daddy? Oh man. Like what percentage preferred which? Actually, I knew a guy I worked with that was in his 40s at the time. I was in my 20s, and he had his wife would call him daddy, and I used to always go, God, it's just like. And his wife, I mean, his wife was in her 30s. It was just their, playful thing.
But I mean, if it was like, by themselves, okay. But if like in front of people, I don't know, that's a little cringe. I don't know.
It's not daddy anymore. It's zaddy. I've never heard that. It was funny when I was talking to this has nothing to do with this particular genre, but when I was back in California, one thing that was weird was everyone was calling their kids kiddos. Have you heard this?
I mean, yeah, I've heard it before, but I didn't know.
The kiddo. And I thought, and then they kept saying it, and it was like, yeah, no, that's a new term that's used as the kiddo, my kiddo. And I'm like,
I don't think it's a new term, but I mean.
No, it was used like all the time.
Really?
Like instead of saying my kid, my kiddo, the kiddo. Younger generation are into more than other generations. I never learned why. They've told me about it. Who's they? Who's they? Who's they that told you about this, dude? They say it now. Like I said, I heard multiple people. I was like, is this a thing now to say kiddo? I don't know. Daddy. Yeah, I remember that though. I was like, it's funny how different. I always say to women, I'll say hun, and someone might say like, especially like in California or something, fads tend to recycle every 20 years. Okay. Kiddo.
What's up, kiddo?
It just threw me off. I was like, can you just say kid or your son? But at the same time, it's like it's harmless. It's just when did this become vogue? It could be just the U.S. Yes, I mean, I'm saying that's when it could just be California. That's what you don't realize about the 50 states and the 370 million people, that there's different stuff going on in each place.
We used to use hella. Oh,
yeah,
that's hella cool.
Hella's used. I had a client recently that's from London, and he dropped a hella, and I'm like, whoa.
I thought that was just a Bay Area thing.
Yeah. People used to look at me weird when I would call my girlfriend babe. Times change, so do perceptions. I've heard babe a lot.
Yeah.
Actually, my dad's nickname was Babe since he was a little kid.
Oh, really?
Yeah. My dad's nickname's Babe. So, the Babe. Well, you got to look at Babe Ruth, too. Like, that was a common. But, yeah, there's a lot of guys that say babe or baby. I remember one of my friends, his first girlfriend, we were like 19 or 20. And it's one of my really good friends. And when he first started going out with her, it was like, baby, 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 baby. Like, you'd hang out. There'd be 5 babies in like 10 minutes. Like, Jesus Christ. Come on, dude. Like, you'd be somewhere. It's like, baby, come here, baby. Baby. Like, so dramatic. It's like, would you watch that in a music video or something? I never said baby or babe. No. Hun is probably the one I used.
Have you ever seen Baby?
Unknowingly.
Have you ever seen Baby Driver, the movie?
Parts of it, not all of it.
His name's Baby.
Haha, they say babe because they forget your name. Babe is in the UK normal. No, it's a common one. I have friends that say babe or baby.
Oh, all the time.
Babe's common. I totally get it. I never did. You're right, because Clutch is like your dad's nickname was Babe. I never called my dad. I'm one of those. My dad was Dad.
Right.
Some people call their dad Daddy or Father or Papa, whatever. It was always Dad, and I never. There's actually some cultures, this might surprise you, that call their parents by their name.
Like their first name?
Mm-hmm. I had Polynesian friends like that.
Really?
I'm not saying all Polynesians do that, but
you
I had
some.
Polynesian friends that they called their parents by their name, which was something new, right? I was like, okay. There you go. Pronounced informally sexually attractive men, especially an older one who is fashionable or charismatic.
That's new.
A zaddy? That sounds so bad. Oh, hey, zaddy. That sounds like that would just be in a particular region. Like in Florida, like in Miami. Yep, I've done that. One time she called me out, calling me, me calling her babe. Do you remember my name? My response, do you? We both laughed. You call your parents by their name? Oh, wow. Wow. See? So it's like some people will.
Mm-hmm.
Different strokes for different folks.
Mm-hmm.
Say babe because I forgot your name. I mean, I don't know. People are really sensitive about being called certain things.
Yeah.
I've always been very good at remembering people's names, though. Some people have a lot of trouble with that. And How to Win Friends and Influence People, which I thought was a redundant book. So I looked over and I'm like, I know all this stuff already, actually. Have you ever heard of that book? Bees Looking Perplexed.
Yeah. No, I mean, I've heard of it. I've never read it, but.
Gnarly. That's a San Diego term.
Yeah, gnarly.
I never knew people really use that until I lived in San Diego for a little while.
Kind of like a surfer term, right? Like that area.
Yeah.
It's gnarly, bro.
Charge it, bro. Charge it.
Bro, we're going to drop in today.
Gnarly waves.
Gnarly
I had some friends like that. They were cool, too. Like, cool friends. I was like, whoa, man. I thought this was only in Ninja Turtles. And the funny thing about the gnarly, I've talked about this before in a live stream. When I was in California, Northern California, and this girl had a shirt on that said gnarly, and I said that to her. I was like, wow, I always just thought people in Southern California said that, and she's like, I'm from San Diego. And she was from Carlsbad.
There you go.
Here's a non-sexual based topic. Why are people sensitive to being called the wrong name? Oh.
Right, because you feel like less important, maybe?
I know what you mean. Being Mac, I've gotten Matt or Max before, and it doesn't bother me that much. I think it's personal. I think that certain people that are important, like it's doctor or it's this. So I think it's different for different people, but the fact that you don't remember them, I think, if you get someone's name wrong all the time, that's part of it.
And you're with them all the time.
It's like, all right, dude, I've told you 5 times.
Yeah.
That's different, right? If you keep calling me the wrong name, if I know it's because someone, like living in different places, if I know it's, because they can't say my name correctly naturally, Thailand, they might say Max a lot. It's all right. Sometimes I don't even correct it. If it's not someone I'm going to interact with again very often, it doesn't bother me. But everyone will spell my name wrong when it's in front of them. Yeah. So those are just pet peeves, right? Like, it's not something to get too crazy about. But I know, like I said, I think that's more when someone repeatedly does it. Or, guess what? There's probably something from when they were a kid and someone teased them with the wrong name or something. I will say this with Mac. There's people that think they're like the cleverest. Hey, Mac Attack. Hey, Mac Truck. Hey, macaroni. Hey, I've heard Mac the Knife.
I'm gonna start using some of those.
And
Mac the Knife.
Mac the Knife. Right? I've heard all those, and it doesn't bother me. It's not one of those. I wasn't bullied when I was young at all, so like I wasn't. I never had that problem or was a kid in the corner that they were calling me. They were calling me macaroni repeatedly. No, it wasn't the case. But I've had people say like those kinds of things, and it's like, yeah, I've heard that one before.
Yeah.
Good one.
Yeah.
But I'll be like, yeah, that doesn't. And that's the way to handle stuff like that, really. If you don't want it to continue, like just be like, yeah, okay,
roll
fine.
with it. Just roll with it.
It's kind of, but yeah, I'd say that it's sparked by that, or someone made their someone growing up was like, your name's your most important thing, or something. You know, like there's so many variables and layers of context to why someone is the way they are, and this is one of the biggest problems right now, is that it's all generalized, scaled advice out there. Yeah, it's interesting that it's funny the things that like when I say traffic and B's like, I actually don't mind traffic.
You know, you don't have to make like, I don't sound like that. Right?
Yeah, I don't really like traffic.
That kind of offends me, but you know, whatever.
I don't really like traffic. Well, I don't really mind it. I just put the music on, man. It's like, all right. We don't have to be, you know. All right, folks, we're coming up on 2 hours. That's enough for me. It's enough for you, I hope. Thank you kindly. Smokey the Cat, I'm happy for you, bud. You're doing well. Dietitian's a great job, great career. I'll be in contact. I actually have like I said, a client that's looking into doing that. And maybe I'll put you into contact with him. He's a cool dude. He's in university right now. And I've been telling him, hey, man, find 2 or 3 people that do what you want to do right now and kind of pick their brain about it. That's the best thing you can do. It was part of his homework. Clutch, good to see you. Rye Flint, always a pleasure. We got into some stuff today.
We definitely got into some stuff.
Check out Catherine Salmon if you want to learn more about face deposits, which, again, groundbreaking stuff here, guys. I'm sure there's not been a lot of reaction videos on that one. Rob IS, always a pleasure. Eduardo Martinez, thank you for bringing up that old that old line about sleep.
That was funny.
And it was funny in that video. I was looking a little rough that day, it seems like.
So there was some truth.
Oh, yeah.
You were speaking some truth.
Oh, yeah. Examples are usually examples of you. All right, folks. Take it easy. It's curtains.
See you guys.